Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday live stream. What a difference 24-hour makes. I have to tell you, yesterday I thought we'd be going straight to 59K or 56K, but the market has a different story to write. And today we're up a little rally. And I mean a little rally, because let's not get excited. I mean, 69K, almost, we hit 70K today. I think we hit almost 71,257. But that's for 24 hours. I'm not even going to show you how bad we've gotten over 7 days and a month. I'm just kidding, I will. 7 days, we're down 16, almost 17%, over a month, 23%, and 3 months, whopping 31.4. And I believe we were down at 1 point 40% plus from its all-time high. But again, everybody yesterday, and we had a good show with NFA Live and the guys, but it was, excuse me, it was one of those days where it was nothing but FUD. You can get a lot of people who are just not really feeling it. And they were saying, well, this is it, because we've gone down so much, so we have to keep going down. And it looks like everybody's going to sell off because nobody has any type of gumption or ability to stay into the market. Now, here we are today. So we've had nothing but negative news, and here we go. And I have to say, I thought that, again, we were going to have the 200-week moving average, and people were really waiting for that average to come in, because that is like the universal buy signal for everybody. But again, it looks like Bitcoin just said, no, I'm not going to go there, and went all the way up to, look at that, from 62,000 up to 70,000. Again, I'm not like, oh, we're back, baby, and this is the best thing of all time. Just saying, hey, could have been worse, or good if you were thinking that you could scoop up a bunch of Bitcoin at that price. So this is where we're at, and the 200-week moving average price, again, is roughly at 58,000, and I think a lot of people are waiting for that, but we'll see how it goes. But there was quite a turnaround. But today what I want to talk about is FUD, negativity, and kind of dispel some of these rumors. I think it's important that we do that moving forward. We have to battle out these things that come up, because if not, it's going to keep recurring and recurring and recurring. So, synthetic float ratio. I have gotten more requests to read these articles about what's happening with Bitcoin and derivatives and open interest, and how everything is going to crumble because of the institutions and the hedge funds that are swapping and having wrapped Bitcoin lending options and everything else in futures, which is destroying, again, I'll say this again, it is destroying the supply of Bitcoin. It was a reasonable article from 0x Nobler, and the main one, though, is from Bob Kendall, who is a 42-year veteran of TA, creator of Portfolio Expert, WaveTech, Process Software, Kendall Report, so on and so forth. So this is the one that I got pretty much notified of, and wanted to get my thoughts. So here's my thoughts. So the article itself, I'm not for sure if this was written by Bob or AI, but there were some valid points. And let's just go through this piece by piece. The marginal buyers of the float determines price. They, meaning the Bitcoin investors, think the on-chain Bitcoin is the price discovery. Well, it was once upon a time, but now it's not, essentially because of all the options and the futures and the open interest, which is destroying the supply. Hint, it's not. The origin, that one thing that no longer exists. Bitcoin's entire valuation logic was built on finite supply, 21 million, and inability to be rehypothecated. If you don't know what rehypothecated is, you should, because in 2022, that's what everybody was talking about. Essentially, it is taking your Bitcoin or any kind of asset and lending it out, even though you may or may not have explicitly given instruction to do so. And that's essentially almost like fractional reserve lending, essentially, rehypothecation, different assets. I take a Bitcoin and I lend out 0.5 or 0.75 or hell, even 0.95. And I go crazy with it. And then when you want yours back, I'm like, I'll just take it from somebody else, because your Bitcoin is out. So this whole thing is on the premise is that Bitcoin is being rehypothecated. And of course, the whole aspect of it being so great as far as store of value and finite, it died the moment that there was cash settled futures, perpetual swaps, options, ETFs, prime broker lending, wrapped Bitcoin, total return swaps, were all layered on top of the chain, and that destroys everything. From that moment forward, Bitcoin supply became theoretically infinite. Now, I understand there is an aspect to this. when you have market makers and people who are buying up, you have, if you have futures and futures go low, you'll buy spot. Something happens with spot, you can go to futures. There is an arbitrage between the two. And because of that, there is so much trading going on that is screwing up everything with Bitcoin. Here's the thing. First of all, let's take this part here, wrapped Bitcoin. That's screwing up the supply. So again, if we're talking about infinite supply of gambling and betting on Bitcoin, sure, it is theoretically infinite if you're doing swaps and futures and derivatives and things like that. I got you. But wrapped Bitcoin ain't one of them. So just so everybody knows, when you wrap your Bitcoin and you put it onto another chain or in another type of valuation, you can't move that Bitcoin. So let's say that I put it onto a DEX or something. I wrap Bitcoin into something else, like a wrapped Ethereum or whatever else. A wrapped Bitcoin, I get some other type of token. I can't move that Bitcoin. It isn't a smart contract. It stays right there. It doesn't mean like I can put Bitcoin into something, wrap it, then use them both and go, hey, here, I'm going to loan out my Bitcoin for something. And also the wrapped token that I have here, I'm going to go buy a bunch of fart coin or whatever it is. That doesn't happen. That's not what it is. And then if we go through and we talk about ETFs, first of all, ETFs and rehypothecation is a full stop not happening. So with ETFs and rehypothecate, and don't just take my word for it, okay? So when you have Bitcoin going into a spot ETF, whether that be BlackRock, Fidelity, or whatever else, there are specific instructions and things that we have to register with, not we, BlackRock, I don't do it, with the SEC. If you don't believe me, I want you to go to the sec.gov, the Edgar full text search. Let's just take a look at IBIT real quick. We'll click on there. And then let's see if we can find an annual, here we go, annual report. Let's open the document. Let's take a look at rehypothecation. Oh, here it is right here. So it's very hard to read. I'm sorry, I didn't write this. Neither the Bitcoin custodian nor any other Coinbase entity is permitted to withdraw the trust Bitcoin from the trust value vault, balance, or loan, hypothecate, rehypothecate, pledge, or otherwise encumber the trust Bitcoin without the consent of the trust. So when we're talking about this and he's saying like, oh, you can rehypothecate ETF, you can't do that. And as far as like cash settled futures, that's cash settled futures. So I'll get to the other stuff in a bit. And now it says, so why Wall Street can now trade against Bitcoin? And this is true. He does have a point. He can. They do exactly what they've done in every commodity market. They've created unlimited paper Bitcoin. Okay, you can. Short into rallies, force liquidations, cover lower, repeat. The same one Bitcoin can now support an ETF unit. That's true. A futures contract, that's not true. You can't do one and then the other. A perpetual swap, an options delta, a broken loan, a structured note. What he's saying here is that you can have one for all six. And that one encompasses all six. That is not true. So with this one, let's go over both of those. So the claim is that one real Bitcoin backs an ETF share. That's true. Spot ETF holders is 1-to-1. It's locked, it's not shared. There is custodial services. Usually we've got things with Coinbase, so they're custodial services, but it's 1-to-1. A futures contract, is that true? No. CME futures are cash, not Bitcoin backed. Perpetual swap, no. Plurps are synthetic. Options delta, I don't even know what the heck this is. Delta is synthetic exposure, not direct claims and coins, gotcha. Broker loan, sometimes. So you get a loan for Bitcoin, they can move things around, possibly via prime brokerage, but not with ETF, BTC. I don't know how many of you are prime brokerage or getting broker loans, but congratulations if you are. Structured note, no, usually synthetic, and all at the same time on one Bitcoin. Remember all those six? You can't do that, it's an exaggeration. Different layers reference Bitcoin, but don't fractions of the same coin. And then lastly, just to talk about like all these things and like how institutions are destroying everything. I'm not going to say they're not. It's not like they're, like altruistic, trying to do the greatest things of all time. What I will say is that all these things that we have right here, excuse me, have already existed. And they've existed since essentially 2016. And oh, by the way, I think we've got futures and different contracts and options for precious metals. We have them for all types of different assets, commodities. We have them for equities, stocks, and it seems to be working out okay. And if people will say, what about all the spoofing of gold and all the different nonsense that goes on with the institutions and then messing around with the price of precious metals. I think I think gold and silver did just fine this year, even with all the manipulation. And then just to get back on track with Bitcoin, we've had swaps, futures, prime brokerage, ETF, futures ETF, and physical ETF. And we're still here. So yes, it's true. Back in the day in 2017, that's pretty much what I believe caused one of the big downfalls for Bitcoin. December 11th, 2017, the CBOE Bitcoin futures and 12/18 CME Bitcoin futures launched, and it took us from 20,000 down to 5. It is true. We went flat. We got physical futures. That's physical futures. That actually was a pretty good thing. He actually used physical Bitcoin. Then he had expansion of prime brokerage, Bitcoin options, pro shares on 2021. And then Celsius BlockFi collapse, which is a big problem with lending. You had spot ETF on January 11, 2024. That was actually a good one. Spot, right? 1-to-1. And then, even on December 5th of, just 3 months ago, or roughly 2.5, we had the CBO and Singapore Exchange perp futures. But we were already going down anyhow with what was happening. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. This isn't the end all be all. It's not like this is going to destroy Bitcoin. There's a lot of things going on. So let me know what you think about that in the comment section. I just don't want to keep getting that article. So there's my response to that. Oh, there's one last thing. Lastly, I will say that I'm not oblivious to the fact that there is a lot of open interest. There's a lot of derivatives, a lot of trades, a lot of swaps, a lot of shorts and longs and things like that. And that's been going on for as long as I've been in, essentially, since roughly 2017. So, you can see the volume on the price, and that's just pretty much how it is. You can see shorts and longs, and yes, that will affect the price, the shorts and longs. Some days when we got too much longs being liquidated, not so great. Other days when shorts get liquidated, it's a lot better. The thing I would like to say, though, is that if you take a look at, historically speaking, as far as like what gets liquidated the most, everything in red here is shorts, anything in green here is longs. Just taking a step back, what do you see over the last 3 months or so? I see a lot more longs getting liquidated than shorts. There was one day here, but mostly it's just a bunch of longs getting liquidated. Let's go forward. What do you see? I see roughly about the same. Big, huge dump here on the longs. That was the Binance 1010 in infamy. Let's move out. Can you see more of the greens? I see more of the greens than the reds. I think it's just that over time, if you take a look at these things, it's almost like you see more greens or longs getting liquidated than shorts. And that's unfortunately why the price sometimes feels a bit stagnant. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And then also, speaking of FUD, MicroStrategy. I don't know who was it in the very beginning. Waffles says, where did you go, Waffles? Rally up, Waffles. Oh yeah, he said this. I don't think I'm going to buy any Bitcoin this next cycle. I think I'd rather buy MicroStrategy. Which if you would have said that yesterday, you'd be like, what an idiot. But now, Waffles is a genius. So this was Kobayashi letter. This was just yesterday. The plot thickens. MicroStrategy reported a net loss of negative 42.93 per share in Q4 alone. That's an operating loss of 17.4 billion, up from 1 billion last year. A 1,640% larger loss. What a loser. These figures don't even include the last 5 weeks, which were the most brutal. Absolutely incredible. You read this, you're like, no one's buying that. Trash. And here we are today. We're up a nice 23, 24%. Congratulations, Waffles, and everybody else that bought Bitcoin and MicroStrategy as of yesterday. You guys made out like bandits, so good for you. And then lastly, before I get to a little Q&A, Peter Schiff. First of all, tip of the hat to Peter and all the gold bugs for crushing it. Good for you guys. I'm happy because I think we're on the same wavelength, the same boat. We all want the same thing. We all believe that fiat's going to zero. It's just that we just got to get together on this one issue, physical versus digital. But it is what it is. But Peter had a good point here. He says this, Scott Besant admitted he has heard rumors that China is working on a gold-backed token. to be used as an alternative to the US dollar for international payments and reserves. Interesting. That would probably be why gold has done so well, because the Central Bank of China has actually bought up a massive amount of gold and is hoarding it right now as possible. Now, America still has the lion's share of gold, allegedly, because we haven't done an audit yet for some reason. Who knows why? I know why. I think I know. So with China buying up all the gold and banning owning any digital currency, correct me in the comment section. I'm not talking about Hong Kong, I'm talking about mainland China. This is a big deal. Scott Bassett gave no indication that he believes the rumor is false. If it's true, he should be very concerned. And I had to, when I read this, I'm like, that kind of makes sense. But I'm like, are we really going to trust, is anybody really going to trust China except Russia? Maybe. For saying, oh, you guys got all that gold? I don't need to audit it. I'm sure you guys are cool. That's fine. We believe you. I don't know how that would actually work. But if it does, that'd be something else. And even Nunez said it. Who's going to do the audit? That would be needed to trust that they have the gold. And let's see what else. Bro thinks the world is going to trust China, the biggest currency manipulators. And as I understand it, some of the, well, let's be honest. They're a government. They're going to lie a little bit about their different statistics and numbers. And they want to be the world's reserve currency. Good luck. So I don't see that happening, but maybe it could. And it leads me to my last point, which is this. When I see stuff like this and how well gold is done, and I really do understand why gold bugs the way they are. Peter is right. The government will continue to debase our currency until it goes to nothing. All fiat currency goes to zero over time. So gold bugs, I get it. I actually own some gold. I own gold, but not physical. It's in my Roth IRA with iTRUST. And as we were talking about different things that happened in 2020, 2021, 2022, remember that we had a nice little collapse of Voyager, Celsius, FTX, and BlockFi? I had these guys through my Roth IRA, and I was working with them, and they were the ones that survived. So I'll always be thankful to these guys to actually make it and make the right decisions and do the right things. So I've got gold. I don't have any silver, but I'm thinking about adding it into there. And this will be my Roth IRA. And the reason why I bring it up is twofold. One, if you'd like to get a Roth IRA, remember that is no capital gains in that. And it's for a retirement account. And it's not just gold and silver, obviously. It's all different types of crypto, which the majority is right now is Bitcoin and gold, go figure. But you have that in there. And if you want to add to it, makes things very easy. There's no capital gains. But if you want to add for 2025, you have until April 14th to do so. So you have a limited amount of funds you can put into your Roth IRA every year. It's between $7,000 or $8,000 unless you do a backdoor IRA. $7,000 or $8,000 depending on your age. You can actually donate or allocate from 2025 up till April, and then 2026 from April 15th and beyond. And also, I also use them for my storage, or as they call it, custodial services. I've got a ledger, TANGEM, and I use iTRUST because I refuse to be attacked and lose all my crypto. And that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everything we talk about is time sensitive. Now let's get into a little Q&A. I'll answer all your questions on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Let's see. Robbie's still holding the dog of Bitcoin. Yeah, I still got some. Worthless. But hey, these are the things that we learn from. Let's see. Demo said dissident. I think I said it right. I don't think they would let it get to 30K. Too many middle class people will get rich buying that. That's true. I mean, yesterday just felt like we were in free fall and we're going to keep going. But the market always has its own ideas of what it's really going to do and never tells you until it's too late. Let's see. Hyperliquid looks solid. I mean, so far, Hyperliquid looks good. But again, how long didn't? And of course, it looks good right now because the price is going up. Plato says, Rob, watching Sam of my financial friend, I said she to do a live stream again soon. He thought it was a good idea. Government channeling speaks highly. Yeah, Sam's a good guy. I don't know what we talk about, but I'm sure it'll be something to discuss. Are there any Bitcoin-backed stablecoins? I don't think so. Tell me in the comments. The only stablecoins I'm really dealing with right now is just Tether and USDC. That's it. Oh. Justice says, dude, I don't care, a $30 SOL, I'm buying until my dry powder is all gone. Speaking of which, how much would that be as far as a $30? Let's take a look at some moving averages, shall we? Solana. Let's see. Wow. You know, Solana's already below the 200-week moving average. Wow. Okay, let's do some betting. Where do you think that $30 would be for Solana for the moving average? Because it's not 200. 150-week moving average would be, wow, 127 bucks. 200-week moving average, 104. How about 250 weeks? Nope. All right. Nope. Oh, and you can't even do it because it hasn't been around that long. Oh my God. $30 would be unprecedented. Look at that. Wow. So we don't know time frames. At 30 bucks, probably would be a pretty good deal. I remember when Solana went to 9 bucks and people said it was going to go to 0. Went back to 250 bucks or whatever it was, 227, forget. So a lot of upside. People seem to be using it. And like I said before, it is one of the best if you take a look at like the functionality, not the functionality. What am I talking about? I'm talking about which ones have the most volume as far as USDC and Tether for stablecoin, which is 93% of the stablecoin market. If you look at the top ones, it's Binance, Ethereum, Solana, and Tron. And usually it's like Binance and Ethereum are the top and they're kind of battling it out. Then you got Solana. No, excuse me. Tron is the highest one for Tether. And then if you combine them together, it's between Binance and Ethereum. And then Solana is in there. So like with Solana, it's actually very fast. And when's the last time, people say, well, it goes down. When's the last time it went down? I don't even remember. So yeah, 30 bucks, not too bad. Okay, what did I miss? $8, $300. $8 is unprecedented. Fear and greed in the toilets. What's risk levels you're looking at? Whatever it's dictated to me. I think we're still at 0.32, 0.33 for maybe 0.35 for Bitcoin. So not too much. I'm really just like I'm still buying Bitcoin once a week, dynamic dollar cost averaging. I really am waiting for that 200-week moving average. And even friend of the show, Ivan, at Ivan on Tech, said he's actually buying at these prices, even though we haven't hit the 200-week moving average. He made a good point, though, so I could see that. Bitcoin Amir says, hey, Rob, do you think Bitcoin will visit the 300-week or lower, similar to 2022 bear? 250-week, I think, is in the cards. Check this out. We actually talked about this a couple of days ago. Let's move this from Sol. Go to Bitcoin. So what we're talking about here, because people always will say, well, the 200-week moving average is the worst of the worst. No, it's not. So the 200-week moving average, you probably thought you were a genius at this point when you were at $5,500 on 8th of March. You're like, this is a good buy. And then in a couple of days, it hit this magical 300-week moving average, which was roughly 3,800. Look at that, 300-week. Don't feel so smart now when you were like, wow, I got it for 5,500, now it's 3,800. That's pretty bad. I remember these days. This is when everybody thought it was going to never go back. And they thought to themselves, how would we ever use Bitcoin? Because the pandemic was going to wipe out half of the world's population. We'd have no electricity, we'd have no commerce and no travel, and the world was going to devolve into like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That was kind of the thought process back then. I know people said that that's a little bit too much, Rob. And you could be right. Maybe that was a little too much. But people were scared out of their minds and they thought Bitcoin would go to zero, and it did. So that was a great example of the 250 and 300 week moving average. And we actually doubled that up again in 2022. And that's when FTX collapsed. Voyager and Celsius actually collapsed before then, June, July. BlockFi right along there with them. And at that point, we were like, well, this is it. Now there's no faith in it. And of course, Elizabeth Warren was out there running her mouth, talking about how Bitcoin and crypto was a scam because everybody's losing money. It wasn't Bitcoin and crypto. It was Sam Bankman-Fried and Alex Mashinsky. And those guys essentially screwed over everything. It was what it was. So yeah, Amir, I can see it. Now, where does that put us, though, for the price right now? Well, I have no idea. Let's see. It ain't too far away, man. So we're talking about 50,000, 55,000, and 58,000. Does anybody think we can't hit those numbers? Let me know in the comments section. That's a good one. All right. Warren needs to go. That's true. And Ganoa says, didn't Jack Dorsey come up with an app, no internet to transfer Bitcoin? Yes, I have it on my phone. And it's called BitChat, B-I-T-C-H-A-T. And the way it works, it's by using a mesh network of Bluetooth devices. So if you're around somebody near who also has the app, BitChat, then you can transact in Bitcoin. It's pretty cool, huh? All you need is electricity. You don't need the internet. I know. Putting great. Yeah, exactly. Did a chat based on Bluetooth mesh. I should do a video on that. Let's see. Crypto Stevo. Ignorant FUD. Solana has more DeFi real-world assets than AI. Protocols on the other chain, not named Ethereum. Nice try. Hey, look, I mean, I like, well, Stevo's talking about somebody else, but I still think, Best isn't a bad idea. Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron. Although Kenton is making its way into my heart, so we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Awesome how the weekly moving averages are being studied. It's great to see. Rolo, I never had any confidence in those whatsoever until Ivan came on the show and was like, look, man, everybody believes in Fourier cycles and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe in it. It was the same thing with moving averages. They just believe it and it actually becomes true. And he's like, that's why everybody pays attention to 200-week moving average. So they just look at that and they're like, I got to buy in that because everything below that is cheap and everything above that is expensive. He goes, so if you have that, doesn't matter what's going on, they're just going to use that. And I was like, damn it. That doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it was a good one. Ben seems to be out of crypto and heavy into gold now. Wasn't a bad pivot, let's be honest. So he did a good job pivoting to gold and silver and palladium. And nothing wrong with that. I got to tell you, I wish, I mean, looking back and, we were all talking, me, Guy, and Ben, and he said, I just had to de-risk a little bit. And it was a smart move. And now I think moving forward, now that we've gotten out of this whole thing about, we're going to hold on to Bitcoin forever, we know that at some point we should take profits like the rules say, rules that I have up. You haven't seen these rules. They've saved me so many times. The last one, take profits. I think we'll be more keen to doing that and moving along from that. So, yeah, and I think a little bit, I guess the sixth rule should be de-risk or diversify just a little bit. So nothing wrong with, like, I went heavy into real estate and land and not in gold and silver, but it worked out. But maybe I should be thinking about that. We'll see. Yeah. Jan Hova says, Rob, you never got the chance to disappear during the bull market. I know. And it's a funny thing. This is why I look to the people that did a good job of getting near the top and exiting before everything collapsed. And the two people that I saw that did a great job of this was CTO Larson and Ivan on Tech. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, you should talk, because when I was taking a look at the indicators, high cycle top, MVRV Z-score, 12 multiple, risk levels, everything else, the 30 different indicators on trading spot or whatever it was. Didn't really help too much. I just was laddering out just regardless. But I need something more concrete. I said, sure, here's what we got. And made a lot of sense. So I think moving forward, I'll be using everything that I can possibly get to make my exits better and your exits better. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Stevie says, the only person I ever heard saying never sell your Bitcoin is Sailor, the unofficial Bitcoin salesman. Anyone tells you never to sell to those greedy bastards. Bags is preposterous. Yeah. I got to get out of here, but there was a great thread from Crypto Hodler or Bitcoin Holder. I forgot which one it was. And he said, he goes, this is going to be a very unpopular post, but he says, your allegiance isn't to Bitcoin. He said, your allegiance is to your family. And it's important that you take care of your family first and that you have everything under control. You have bills paid, food on the table, you have economic insurance, you have an economic future. And if that means that you have to sell your Bitcoin, you sell your damn Bitcoin. And he said, if you don't, essentially the Bitcoin that was supposed to be freedom is now an imprisonment. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I know the other argument is like, I'm not here for me, I'm here for my kids, I'm here for my grandkids. And for that one, I say, great, have at it, because who the hell am I to tell you what to do? But that post, I think, should be highlighted a little bit more. Anyhow, that's it for today. Like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you guys tomorrow, and I'm going to get out of here, hit the beach, and that's it for this one. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. See you in the next one. Adios.